Now, that particular model has elicited mixed reactions from across the country, with parents lamenting over what they say is high school fees from the fee structures issued by various universities where their kids are slated to join, starting this particular month through to September. Now, I'm glad because my panelist, that is Dr. Christine Ombaka, the woman representative for Siaya County, and Mr. Wilson Sosion, the former SG of the Kenya National Union of Teachers, do have a rich background in matters education. I just want to begin with you, Dr. Ombaka. First of all, what do you make of the new model in itself?
Well, the new model is still it's new and still not well set up. There are three ways in which students will be funded. Mm-hmm. There is scholarship, which is not really scholarship the way I understand it. The scholarship range between 30 to 70% of the cost of the courses or programs that a student will be undertaking. So when a student gets 70%, that is going to be paid by the government. The remaining part is going to be paid by the family, that is the household resources. So there is the scholarship on one hand of 70% up to 70%. Then there is the help, that is the loan.
25%.
The 25%, which has always been there. Mm-hmm. Then they have the family one, the household that the parents are going to meet. So these three are the critical ones. These are the way in which students will be funded, unless a student also has a donor, a private donor. That will be okay. But the scholarship, the way I benefited from a scholarship I studied, was full-fledged scholarship, 100% of the total school fees, including upkeep, including clothing, including food. You had pocket money as well. So that was 100%. You didn't pay a single cent. In fact, for those who are married, at the time I was enjoying the scholarship, going abroad, not locally, going abroad, you could go with your spouse, and they still took care of that. The British Council did that. So for me, understanding of the scholarship was 100% school fees being paid to a student, and in taking care of every aspect: tuition, boarding, welfare, clothing, books, everything included. No single penny was paid by a student. The loan part that we now have, which we have had for the longest time, is just a loan. A student will pay. You apply first, you may get or you may not get it. You may get 100% or you may never get it. In fact, it's never 100%. A student applies and does not get everything that he wants. Okay. But at the end of it all, when you graduate, you will settle. I paid my HELD. When I was at Nairobi University, I got the HELD. That is when the loan started. And we paid through our salaries. It was deducted from our salary for a long time until we completed. The other model is when a parent can also chip in and pay for that. We have always had that. Parents have always paid school fees. So it's nothing new. So the new model, to me, what is new here is what they call the scholarship, which is not 100%.
Okay, fair enough.
The rest have always been there. HELD has always been there. Parents have always paid their school fees for their students. So nothing is so new. In fact, the cost of education has gone so high that even that scholarship is not enough.
Fair enough.
That even the HELD, the loan system, is not enough. Even parents cannot afford it. I do not know where we are headed.
Fair enough.
But we are getting to a situation where parents and their students or their children will never actually meet the cost of education.
Of course, you've talked about the bands, and there are 5 bands in the new funding model. But before we talk deeply about that, Mr. Sosion, you've been in the sector for a very long time. Now, the new model compared to the previous one that we had, do you feel this is an upgrade, or it's
yeah, yes, indeed it's an upgrade. The only problem that it is suffering is proper public communication and maybe some civic education that needs to be done so that people can appreciate and point out the gaps. But looking at the history of education in terms of financing higher education, beyond basic education. In Kenya, for a long time, it has always been fully funded by government. It was fully funded. Those who joined teacher training colleges, they were paid for by government. Those who joined universities, mid-level colleges, you would just attend and it was paid for by government. The transition to household paying was brought in by the World Bank through what you call cost sharing, which started in 1988 through Kamunge report, the cost sharing in education. And it hit the universities around 1991-92 financial year. But before then, you would walk to the university as a university student. You are given your boom. It used to be called boom.
Yeah, which is loan, actually. Yeah,
it was an allowance. You get that allowance and do your shopping, go to the university. You are given a meal voucher, you get free meals, free accommodation and everything because it was funded by government. But the World Bank compelled the Kenyan government to share with the household. This is where the Higher Education Loans Board came in and was established as a body to provide loans to students. If you look at what was happening during the Jubilee administration, the money that was going to Higher Education Loans Board was so meager, 13 billion for entire finance year. And that is why universities were collapsing. The loan component of the scholarship was being wired directly to the universities without being capitated against the student. And that is why it was not declared. The only change that has come in here is that a lot of work has been done by experts within the university. I was part of those who developed the education charter for Kenya Kwanza. And therefore, it was agreed that more funds need to be pumped into the universities. And now Higher Education Loans Board is receiving 30 billion, up from 13 billion. And universities are receiving more funding. But it was agreed we need to develop a new model that is capitated on a student. And this is it. One, band number one. Band number one, if you can allow me to summarize. Band number one, a student from this household will enjoy 100% financing from government. And that household will have been identified through what you call means testing instrument. And that will include 82% of tuition, 82% of scholarship tuition paid for by government to the university where you join for any particular course. And then 18% of the balance will be paid through our Education Loans Board. So the household will pay zero. So it targets the poor households that shall have been identified. A child will not pay.
Band one, the government pays 70%.
70%
in terms of scholarship.
Yes.
No. Let me give you the accurate. Let me give you the accurate figures. Let me give you the figures.
Let me tell you, it is just last week, I'm in a committee of education. It's only last week they came up with the breakdown. It's actually 70%, and then it's 25, which now makes it to 95, and then the 5% is the household.
Depending on the income,
Yes, depending on income. But we are going to face a lot of challenges ahead, the way I see it. How will you know that this student is so poor that he needs 70%, and this one is not so poor, he needs only 30%? How will you know?
Now, let me come to that.
The mean testing instrument need to be made clear, so that we can identify what are the testing, what are the criteria.
And of course the accuracy of the data as well. Because that is the
the problem I have with this whole thing, just a second, is to be able to allocate the scholarship in a manner that is realistic. It would be a good idea if it was possible for the government to identify those who will benefit from the scholarship door by door, student by student. Study the background of this student. How do you know this student is so poor? How do you know this one is not so poor? How do you know this one can afford it? How is our socio-economic status? How will you identify that? You have massive number of students and you cannot do door to door. If you look at the Wings to Fly, and I always compare that because Wings to Fly will investigate the background of the student. They will go to the homes and will establish that this student needs Wings to Fly. It's a full scholarship. and everybody's craving for it. But they go and ensure that they study the background of every side. They go home by home to study the student. Then they will award the scholarship, and it will be very fair, very clear, very transparent, and everybody will enjoy. No. But here, we do not have. The mean testing instrument is not exactly clear.
Exactly.
That is my problem with this system.
Even as you respond to that, because
the idea may be good, but it is not clear. It's not coming out.
How do they determine whether this child is extremely needy or not? The means of testing instrument.
Before I come to that, you know, nothing is 100%. And whenever you implement a new program, there are always what you call issues arising from the program. That you will be able to see the gaps and then deal with them. But before I get to that, because I'll answer exhaustively, the bands are actually 5.
Yes.
But what I have at the moment are 4 bands. Initially, it was 82% tuition, 82% scholarship, 18% loan for band 1.
Yeah.
So that would mean 100% GOK financing. And the model here is to pick students from the very poorest household so that they don't even do fundraising, but they are properly targeted and fully financed.
But that is not
band number 2, I'll come to that.
That is not what the PS says.
No, I'll come to that. I'll come to that. I'll come to that. No, I'll come to that. The figures may have changed.
They have changed.
Yes, they have changed.
The figures may have changed, but I'm saying originally, this was a proposal. Why can't you allow me I finish? I clear this.
I'd really appreciate if you talk about
number 2, I'll get to the current figures. Originally, it was 70 for band 2, 70% tuition, 30% loan. That would mean still 100% financing. That is extremely needy, category 2. The first category was vulnerable. Category 3, scholarship, 53%. And you can see as you move, the scholarship reduces. And the amount of loan goes up. That becomes 93% GOK financing. And that then will allow the household to pay 7% of the balance. And then the last one, less needy, still enjoyed scholarship of 38% and loan 55% for loan. Household would be 7%. But as you move towards that end, some even household would choose not to go for the loan and pay the fees. Now, this is the elephant in the house. This is the elephant in the house.
Just before you respond,
yes?
Just to set the record straight, because the viewer has to know the new figures that we have. For band 1, it's 70% scholarship, 25% loan and 5% family. Band 2, 60% scholarship, 30% loan and 10% family. Band 3, 50% scholarship, 30% loan and 20% family. Band 4, 40 scholarship, 30% loan and 30% family. And finally, band 5 is 30% scholarship, 30% loan and 40% from the family.
Correct. And let me tell you, getting to the next financial year, it can even expand up to band 6, band 7. And now, this brings me to what Dr. Mbaka is talking about. And I think she has nailed it. The thing is, the means testing instrument, is it understood by the public?
Yes, that's what we need to understand, which has not been exposed to us.
For me, as someone who participated in the developing the policy on financing of education, I think the model, the philosophy is good.
The philosophy, the practicality of it.
How are we implementing? That brings me to the principle of the Constitution, Article 10, public participation.
Exactly.
Why do you have, this is a huge policy that we will need to disseminate in schools. This is a huge policy that we need to take the education stakeholders, say the county directors of education and all of them, ministry officials, universities, through an extensive civic education, because this is a big turning point in the education sector. So that then, as a teacher, and I remember a few days ago, I was a chief guest in one of the best schools in Bomet County. And therefore, I had to take a lot of time to talk about this particular model. And I could see it is not properly communicated to the users. And right now, as we are talking Keitany, I saw yesterday 69,000 students who have actually applied to qualified to join universities have actually not applied. This model is like the career programs in school.
In schools.
That somebody, we must even have a specific department in every secondary school in Kenya that deals with these student financing models, so that students are guided on how to prepare, so that when a student is in Form 2, is so sure that the mean testing instrument will place me in what band, and I expect to get scholarship of what extent, and so that brings the whole problem is communication and the strategy of how to roll out this program. And I think the means testing instrument or the entire program and funding model needs to be redone afresh, so that then you bring on board Kenyans, conduct civic education, and inform the stakeholders, inform the public, and then from then the public will be able to critique the mean testing instrument. Because if you ask, if I ask, for example, Dr. Mbaka, who is here, is in this show, well, she may be privileged, she sits in the education committee, but the fact is, the truth is, we cannot assume that she really knows, she understands the model. They must also be taken through, so that they understand. Everybody must be taken through, so that then we've got improvement steps and we make it work.
Fair enough. Even as you respond, Dr. Mbaka,
yes.
Mr. Sosion has talked about around 69,000 of students who qualified to join university, yet to apply for government funding, and that is a very, very big number. That in itself could tell us that there could be a problem, because if 69,000 are yet to apply, with students expected to join universities this month, as soon as next week to September, it means there's a problem with it.
There is a problem, because there's a massive number of students that are going to be left out. They have not applied up to now, because we need to understand the mean testing instrument. What are they looking for students to qualify for scholarships and the loan and all that? What do they look for? The little that I understood was that it depends on your socio-economic background.
Exactly.
But to me, that will mean visiting the students to be able to assess that student and see what they are missing in their lives economically. They must have a background that shows that they are very poor, that shows that they are very rich, that shows that they are middle income individuals, and how much do you allocate for every student. That is where the problem is going to arise, because nobody will go to these households to vet the students for the scholarships and for the loans. Nobody will do it, because the number of students are too many. Who will do it? It's too expensive. So we need a way in which you can tell that the student is poor. Now, you may say somebody is poor, but that person is not very poor. When we always talk about the orphan, an orphan student will not be able to afford it. But what if you are an orphan, but you have an uncle or an auntie, or you have a member of the family who's taking care of you, but you are an orphan? No father, no mother, but some uncle is very rich and is paying your school fees. How do you rate that orphan with another orphan who does not have an uncle to pay for him or her? They are both orphans, but the level of their income is different. Now, how will we be able to distinguish who really is needy, and who is just basically needy, and who is extremely needy?
Now, coming back,
those are the issues as a teacher and as somebody who's concerned that would want fair distribution of resources and school fees to be distributed to all these students, so that everybody has a chance to be in the university. How fair are we going to be in doing that?
Now, fair enough. Even as you respond, Mr. Sosion, there's the issue of equity or equality. But the means testing instrument, they talked about, KRA, NHIF, and all that. Now, the big question is the accuracy of the data.
Yeah.
What about those people
if we are serious, and we are serious as a country, and we are doing what we call e-government system, we should have no problem. By a stroke of a button, we should be able to place all our students in the right places, and they will be comfortable within the country. Remember, Kenya is a signatory to UN resolutions on education, particularly SDG 4 agenda, which I attended on 3rd of November 2015 when the framework was launched, and all Kenyan officials attended. And the overarching call is towards equitable quality education for all. None should be excluded. And therefore, the means testing instrument is a tool that should be used, understood by all, and used within the public. And UK time, you have been in school, we are all teachers. And we've always awarded bursaries at school systems. And we will know, Mbaka is from is a single parent from Siaya, or Mbaka is an orphan. I remember I was awarding a student the other day at Tenwek High School, a Luo boy from Nyanza who was paid by all the alumni. And therefore, that student will automatically fall in a particular band. So really, students should not suffer struggling to know what to do. They should automatically fall in the particular bands. And this means testing instrument, if we talk about, is if you are looking at the household income. When you have orphans, what type of income do you allocate to those particular orphans?
Yes, exactly.
What tool is Equity using to capture these particular students? What tool is Kenya Commercial Bank using to capture these students? What tool are all these corporates? Can we all collapse this tool and ensure that even the tools that are used to apply on students at the school level, even as teachers, can also be applied, can be loaded on to the mean testing instrument. I don't think the mean testing instrument is dropping from heaven and meeting students who are also dropping from heaven. The means testing instrument is being applied on students who have been going through similar scholarships across the system. And if you look at it, for example, vulnerable, this category, the band 1, vulnerable, the household income is supposed to be 0.
It should be 0.
So if it is 0, and we can be able to get across the country, because all these students took exams through particular learning institutions, domiciled in certain counties or certain constituencies. So it is very easy to identify. And also, there should be room to appeal. If you change from any particular band to another band,
because situations keep changing.
If you are in first year, you can be in the category of less needy. But in second year, you become needy. That was number 1, vulnerable, 0 shillings income. Extremely needy, the household income should be 23,671 per month. This actually, these are category of teachers, nurses, and whatnot, you know. And then category number 3, band number 3, the needy category. This is household with income between 23,000 and 70,000. And that can be gotten from the data of KRA, payslips, payrolls, and other forms of income, NHIF. No. And then the last band is less needy. These are from households with income of over 70,000. Oh, yeah. And you see, as a country, if you are a businessman, for example, your income will be known through KRA data. And therefore, if we digitize everything...
I really support what you're saying, and we are doing it so well. But there's still a problem there. How will you know? How about parents who are not working? They're in the villages.
Informal sectors.
They're in the informal, and some are retired, but they still have little children, or they have children they're educating. There are those who are not employed, and they're in the villages. And
you know,
those are people who really exist.
Those are genuine concerns.
Really. To my understanding about the tool, it does not talk of you are alive or you are an orphan or anything. It talks about income.
What of those who don't have any income?
There are so many people in the rural areas.
You can be retired. For example, Mheshimiwa here, or me as a Mheshimiwa. If I am out of parliament and I have no active income, this tool will categorize
Let me tell you one thing.
This tool
Even
will
as a politician, I have some bursary that I give as a woman rep. We have what we call National Government Affirmative Action Fund.
What is GAF?
There is an allocation for bursaries. Do you know I give 10,000 for every student flat rate, whether you're in the university, whether you're in the university or college or high school, you get 10,000. Do you know that the balance of that school fees for that student, they cannot even afford it? High school only, they cannot afford it. If fees is 50,000. And I give them 10,000, they have 40,000 to pay. That 40,000, a student cannot afford it, and this student is going to drop out.
Exactly. That is all. That is also talking about equity and equality. Mr. President, I want us to take a brief breath, and then we'll come back and continue the conversation, because there are many various issues that are still yet to be addressed. There's the issue of the president talked about universities having debts, and this particular model will sort out that particular mess. Now that the question is, it's okay. The question is the president prioritizing the settling of these debts of universities over the status of students and parents in the country, or what should be the priority here? But that will be after this short break. We'll come back and talk about that. Yes, after the break. Don't go away. Yes.